Right. We are back with another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. Hope you guys are having a great week wherever you are, whatever day it is for you. I promise you guys, I switched out the camera this time, so I'm not going to lose my feed. It is going to be up all all the time. But yeah, this is going to be a good episode. We got Logan Freeman with us on the podcast from Midwest Commercial Real Estate Advisors. Logan is both an investor and a broker. He's out there in Kansas City, Missouri. We actually had a little chat about the origins of Kansas City, Missouri. Is interesting. We're not going to go into that right now, but I'm super excited about this because you guys know I am a huge geek when it comes to AI. I love implementing it in any business that I'm a part of. And Logan is the same way, and he's really gung ho about putting it into his investment side, into his brokerage side of the business. So should be a good talk. Logan, thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, Gabe, good to be back, man. And yeah, really appreciate you extending the invite and hopefully being able to drop some knowledge, some practical tips on some things that we're doing right now. And obviously, I post about and put out a lot of market reports in regards to market cycles and things like that. Very interesting time for the real estate market, and I'm excited for the next 12 months.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get more into that. Before we do, though, we always start the same way on the podcast. We like to hear stories. We want to hear how you got to where you are. So why don't you take us to the beginning of your story and tell us how you got here?
Yeah, man. So grew up in Jefferson City, Missouri, which is the capital of Missouri for everyone that has no idea where
I
Missouri
did
is.
know that. I did know
Yeah,
that,
okay, there you
surprisingly.
go. Well, Jefferson City, Carol Dweck wrote a book, Mindset. And in that book, she kind of had two different mindsets: the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. And I sort of grew up in this fixed mindset. Hey, this is how things are going to be. And I just, something inside of me, man, has just always rebelled against that. Like, it's like, look, if I want to go play basketball, I want to play basketball. If I want to go play professional football, I made it to professional football. I put my mind to it and said, well, why can't I do it? Right. And so I had this like growth mindset. I also have ADHD, diagnosed clinically. So my whole life, don't have to use any medicine anyhow. So, but that's good. But in regards to just discipline and focus, I've got this, one track mind that can get really, really focused on something, right? And so it was athletics growing up, and so that led to playing Division II football. I had many different Division I football teams asking me to come walk on and earn the scholarship, but my mom was working two jobs. My dad, full Native American, 13 brothers and sisters from a one-bedroom house on a tobacco farm in North Carolina. Didn't go to college, was not making whole bunch of money. So I needed a scholarship. So I went and played Division II ball. And, really, I found myself, in college, right? I had a lot more freedom. But the whole identity of me growing up was, you got to work for it. Like that's just what the way it was. Achievement based love. So what's the report card say and how you doing in athletics? And then getting to college was like, okay, now I got some freedom. And I just directed that into my craft, right? And I've done that into real estate now. So fast forward, ESPN, all academic, all American Division II football player. Scouts start showing up at practice. I'm like, who are they here to see? And the coach was like, you go to the film room. They're there. I was like, what? And so I played left tackle in college, but I'm 6'3", so like I'm not going to be able to play, tackle in the NFL. Those guys are 6'7", 6'8", big long arm guys. So
Monsters.
they said, "Hey, you need to move inside." So I moved inside. I put some weight on at the NFL Combine, 335 pounds. Ran a 5 flat 40, bench 225, 29 times, 27-inch vert. Like I physically, I had it right. Like it was no, and I worked for it. I worked my tail off for it. But mentally, Division II, I was able to scathe by. I used my athleticism, I used my strength, and my work ethic. Well, when you go up to the Oakland Raiders, team, and you're looking at an All SEC division tackle, defensive tackle from Oklahoma, staring you down, who's 340 pounds and ran a 4.9 40 and bench 225 55 times, and the speed of that game just really caught me off guard. And I've taken that lesson to heart, right? It's like just because you may have some attributes that are on the same playing field, the mind is what really sets you apart. And so I was cut and I had the opportunity to continue on. I didn't want to. And so I went back to school, finished my master's program. And in 6 months, Gabe, I went from 335 pounds to 219 pounds. I had to get a job because I didn't have a scholarship anymore. I didn't make any money playing football. So I had to get a job. and I got a job making 265 cold calls a day. Well, I followed Zig Ziglar's advice and I turned my car to the classroom on wheels, right? So Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, Zig
I
Ziglar,
I used
all of
to
them.
love Zig Ziglar. He was when I first got into that kind of thing, the kind of guess self help kind of stuff. I Zig Ziglar was my guy. I thought he had the best messages.
It's so good. I mean, and it was so catchy the way that he came up with that stuff. And it was all before AI. Like that was his talks, you know. Him and Jim Rohn, man, are just incredible speakers. Anyways, that fast forwarded into guys like Darren Hardy and
Mm,
Lewis Howes and John Lee Dumas and Robert Kiyosaki. And so then my mind is being opening. I'm sitting there going to master's program, learning about statistical regression analysis and chart of accounts, and I'm like, what is this? Like what like is this going to be business? Like this isn't business. And I took a class, it was like a marketing class, and it was a set. We had to read two books, and one of them was Charles Duhigg's The Power of Habit, and the
mm.
other one was Seth Godin's The Purple Cow. And I go, this is business. Here it is for me, at least, right? I'm not going to be an accountant. I'm not going to be a financial analyst. I need to be out communicating on a regular basis. And so I poured into that side of things, learned sales, learned the marketing side of the business, and I said, this right here is what I'm going to focus on. And so this is kind of a crazy story, but like finished up my master's program, quit that job. They knew I wasn't going to be there. Outsold the rest of the four people that they brought on myself because I would just pound the phones. Just turned a bunch of no's into yeses. Learned the muscle of cold calling, and I got a job as the youngest franchise consultant that Jimmy John's had ever hired at the time. So I was 24 years old. I had 25 stores across 4 states. And, one big thing happened. My dad, really struggled with drugs and alcohol his whole life. And so when I was finishing up my master's program, he actually passed away in like a 6 week period, like boom. And so I'm no longer in the NFL. I'm no longer a football player. I've lost 100 pounds. I walked by my friends that I knew 6 months ago and they didn't even recognize me. I legitimately have a new identity, not just physically, but mentally. Right. And so I was like, who am I going to be? And so that's when I started to try to figure out how do I have a generational shift? Like, how do I break the pattern? My mom has had two brothers also pass away from addiction. So it's been all around me my whole life. I'm a very addictive guy myself. I don't drink anymore because of it. Right. So I've just, excommunicated that out of my life. And it's been a
Yeah,
great
and
thing for me.
even if you don't have a problem drinking, if you choose not to drink, it's actually harder. Like, I've done that a few ti I don't really have a problem drinking, but I've at times in my life, I've chosen, I'm not gonna drink for a little while, and it's actually harder than you think because,
It is.
socially, you go out there and it's just everybody's drinking around you, and you're like, "Alright, I'll just have 1 beer." And so
Yeah.
anytime I hear people that say they went cold turkey drinking, regardless if they're an alcoholic or if they're just decided not to, I give them props because
Yeah.
it is harder harder than it seems to, even if you don't have a problem, not to stop drinking cold turkey. So props on
Yeah.
that.
Well, and I just have a rule, right? Like I just made a rule for myself. If my wife's not with me, I'm not drinking. That's
Mm.
just a rule. Like that's just it.
Hey,
It's
I
like,
like
but
that. Yeah.
on date nights and stuff like that, like I may have a martini or an old fashioned or something with her. But like if
Mhm.
she's not with me and I'm at a real estate conference or I'm at some conference speaking or doing something like Diet Coke, man. I just drink Diet Cokes.
Nice.
And I know that's probably not that great for me either, but I love those Diet Cokes.
It's all
Anyways,
good.
so long story short, man, like, moved to Kansas City, was working Jimmy John's 12 months in. I'm ranked top 5 in the country. And I go to my boss and he's like, great job first year, like, how you feeling? I'm like, well, I'm curious on like what's next. And they said, well, you're the youngest dude in the company. This is before Jimmy sold to private equity company. So they were growing rapidly at this time, and I said, "Well, I'm not sure. I like that idea, and I don't like being capped out on my income." And I was buying houses at the time, and buying houses I'd saved just I'd saved so much of my $5.15 an hour paychecks, and my first job was baling hay in the Missouri fields in the summertime, so saved all that money and had a little bit of scratch. So bought some houses, renovated them, and then sold them after 2 years and moved out. And I got that check the first one. It was more than my salary, and I was like, man, I gotta figure something out here. And so I wasn't really fully committed to just jumping into real estate at the time. So I took a couple other jobs, more sales jobs, just making calls, and that went well. I was at a startup company, and then I graduate to a larger company. And then 2017, man, comes around, and I'm miserable in this big company. I'm getting a six-figure paycheck, and just all these rules and stuff. And at the end of the day, I got fired from that job. And they brought a private equity company on. They laid off the whole sales team, like gone, in a month. And I had read, 750 books up to this time. And I looked in I have three kids, six and under now, but at the time we didn't have any children. And my wife goes, look, just it's time for you to she goes, you're unemployable. So just go figure it out. And I said, okay. So I knew I wanted to do something in real estate. So I got my real estate license, and then I started a sales consulting company, making cold calls for people, setting up CRM systems. I just grabbed Inc.'s fastest 5,000, growing companies, and called the first 2,500 of them, and three of them hired me. So I was setting up CRM systems, flying to Orlando, Florida, pitching their products at their booth, stopping people. It was working, but 6 months in, my wife was like, "Man, all you do is complain about this consulting, and all you do is talk about real estate." And so I had accepted. So I didn't tell either of the companies, that I was working with at the time, the consulting or the real estate side. I was doing 12 transactions a month on the single family home side for investment. So this was the buy, renovate, rent out, refinance model at scale. So I was backed by a hedge fund, and they had raised about $50 million to do houses. And so was able to get like 185 of those done in 18 months. And we were the sixth group in the country to go through the CoreFest portfolio refinance program. And that really showed me the value of like being able to use other people's money in the right way, and buying undervalued assets, right? And so like that was interesting to me, but I didn't want to do it on single family homes. So I dissolved the sales consulting stuff, and then I moved full time into real estate. I go to the guy I was working with, and I was like, hey, the fund is stopping by, and I started to do multifamily and larger deals. Like, let's go do that. And he goes, that's not what I do. And so I moved my license. I start brokering triple net lease neighborhood retail shopping centers and multifamily properties, and have some good success doing that. And so made some money, bought some real estate deals myself. Fast forward to COVID, I find a couple business partners. We're buying some deals together, and we've got $35 million worth of shopping centers under contract. And then March 14th of 2020 happens, right? And so you're like, oh boy, what's going to happen to retail, And so we dropped those contracts, and we said, well, what can we do in this period of time of uncertainty? And this is also where you had the period of time where Federal Reserve was continuing to drop the interest rate, right? The federal funds rate was basically zero at the time, so debt was 3 to 4%, and people couldn't get on airplanes to come look at deals in Kansas City. And so I was able to add about 1,500 multifamily units to the portfolio, as well as another 600,000 square feet of commercial space in about 3 years. And so, since then we've been actively managing those projects. We manage them, we lease them, we work on them on a regular basis, but then also, growing the excuse me, the brokerage side, and really been focused on that as well, because acquisitions have been slow for the last couple of years for us at least. And so that's something that I've really kind of poured in myself into this year, and started to really understand real estate cycles, and understand, hey, I just because I wasn't around in 2008 and the other cycles in the 80s, I need to know this stuff. And so I started to study this. And now people kind of look to me to say, hey, what's going on, in commercial real estate nationally and in Kansas City? And I've now weaponized that information, utilizing artificial intelligence and digital marketing to position myself as kind of a go-to resource in Kansas City, as at least what's going on. And so that's what I'm doing now, and that's led into a couple other businesses. One of them, I have five full-time real estate brokers as well that I manage, and I was finding that, man, I can't do this during the day. And so I started a curriculum, and I called my buddy. I don't know if he's been on the show or not, Tyler Cobble down in Nashville. He's huge
Mm.
on YouTube and commercial real estate. And anyways, I said, look, man, we're doing a podcast on brokerage stuff. Why don't we actually just make a group? And so we sent out an email or so. That was about a year ago. We're up to 15 paying members in our real estate group, and I coach them how to use AI and how to build their businesses online now. And it's all real estate brokerage stuff. And so that's called the Brokerage Mastermind, and we're hoping to grow that double next year. I think we will. And we're just going to continue on. And I love that business because it keeps me front and center with the new tech that's coming out. What's happening? What are people seeing in the marketplace? And I think there's very few people in the industry that are is in tune with at least transaction volumes, trends, because the trend is your friend, and then also artificial intelligence. And I think that that positions me in a unique way for property owners to say, look, I can help you think about when is the best time to refinance or sell or maybe invest. And additionally, if you want to get 25, 35,000 impressions on your property, not through LoopNet and Crexy, call me because I can do that now. And so we've been just proving that out the last 12 months.
Nice, man. Well, shoot, that there is a lot to go into there. I like your story because there's so many different pivots. I mean, you started at football and then you got into Jimmy John's and then a sales consultant and then CRE and now you're doing this AI and brokerage mastermind. So at every point of your career, you've made pivots. You adjusted what your sites were based on what you knew was true for yourself. So I like to see that. Also, a few things I was just writing notes when you were talking. One of the things that kind of stood out to me about you kind of glanced over it, but I thought it was a good thing to kind of come back to is you mentioned when you started that sales consulting business, you got a list of 2,500 people that you called and you closed three. And I just wanted to kind of highlight that because a lot of people, when they come to me and for advice, I always say start cold calling. It's the easiest way to get into it. You can get deals that way. It's literally the best, cheapest way to do it. But they don't realize the volume you need in order to
Yeah.
get cold calling to work for you. So 25 or 3 divided by 25, I don't know what that is. It's a really low percentage.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to highlight that because it just shows you had the tenacity to keep going down that list until you got some sales done. Um, and then, I mean, originally you had the grit from the get go with with going into football. It was funny. You said you benched 225 29 times. That's insane. I actually
Yeah.
just recently me and somebody at the gym decided to go for a 1 rep max and I benched 285 once. And
Yeah.
I
That's
got
good
to
too.
thinking, I was like, I wonder how much the world record is for bench press. I was like, maybe it's 600 pounds, maybe it's seven. I just felt really strong at that time. And I looked, the world record is 1,350 pounds, which is insane, but that's a total aside. Anyways,
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
let's get back to what you're doing today. I love your story. Let's talk about the actual, what you're most focused on. We already mentioned in the intro, we want to talk a little bit about AI, how it affects real estate.
Sure.
That's something you're trying to position yourself as, and specifically focus AI on or the implementation of AI in your business. So, what are the
Mhm.
top things that you're doing that you're using AI for that have measurable or a specific deliverable that AI is getting for you?
Yeah, two things I think come to mind when you ask that question. The first one is being research and the analysis of the amount of research that you can find. So, we've moved from information asymmetry, where certain groups or certain people have the information, to information parity, where the internet is making it widely available to just about everybody. To where I believe we are now, which is kind of information overload, and now we have to be advisors to be able to cut through the noise and figure out how to create actionable inferences off of this data, right? And so that's the first and foremost is I don't have to rely on all this paid data to be able to go make these inferences. I
Mm,
can have
yeah.
a super agent. In my firm, we use GenSpark. It's just a great tool that I love, and I use GenSpark, and it's a super
Gen-
agent that will actually go and can go to websites and get behind paywalls and find this information. So whenever I look at GenSpark, I could say, hey, I'm interested in Overland Park, Kansas's last 5 planning and zoning meetings. Go in, watch the videos, read the notes, and then send me a synopsis of the new projects that are happening on the multifamily side in the corridor. And that's going to be information that I now have that I can take to my clients to say, hey, I just did an analysis of all the new supply pipeline coming online in the next 12 to 18 months that you're not going to be able to find really anywhere else. And then I take that information, right? And I don't just throw them a big word salad, for example, of like, here's all the data. I take it and I put it into Gamma.app, and that just visualizes it. So Gamma.app is a technology that takes that word, all that text, and then makes PowerPoint presentations that you can edit with AI. And so,
hmm,
prime example of this is a gentleman reaches out to me 2 days ago, and I started working on the project yesterday. He said, "Hey, I own 20 townhomes in Kansas City. I need to figure out if I do an individual parcelization strategy, and I've done this before, if I go and individually parcel each one of these, what can I sell them for versus selling them as a portfolio to an investor? Okay, typically that would take an analysis team and somebody a day or 2 or 3 days to try to figure out. So Rit roll goes into GenSpark. MLS comps goes into GenSpark. Crexy comp goes into GenSpark. I type out what I'm looking for. I give it a prompt to say you are a professional commercial real estate appraiser and expert financial analysis, right? Do the work that needs to be done. So it has the data and go find other comps if you can, right? And it spits out, this document that's like 27 pages long. Okay, now I got a starting point. Now I take my experience, right? I augment the artificial intelligence with my experience to say, no, that's wrong, that's right, that's not applicable, that works. And then I take that information over to Gamma and I have a document now that can be sent to the client, right? If I need to make any changes, I make it in Gamma. I had a call with him this morning. He said, "Hey, look, I thought it was going to be a little bit higher, but your analysis with these not having garages and doing an 8 to 7% or 7 to 8% reduction in value because of the no garages, and then showing me specific comps in the 6405 area code that do not have garages in this range." Gave me the value of saying, okay, well, I could probably sell them for 150,000 each, or if I get it 100% occupied, my best at a 7% cap rate is going to be about $105,000 to an investor. And I said, okay, so what do we do now? Well, our next step is to go find firms that can give us pricing and timelines on individually parceling, creating an HOA, and then how long is it going to take to sell each one of those. Well, through the data that I had, I have a timeline already put together that I showed him. And I already did research on 6 top firms that focus on that specific, attorney firms and HOA firms to show pricing and that people that can reach out to. Also found their contact information and also said, look, these are on average taking 56 days, on the market to sell. So now we have a timeline, right? And so he said, okay, well, that makes complete sense. Let's go work on that. So something that would have taken a month potentially to get to a response of saying, let's go with this strategy, took 48 hours. And now we're moving forward and hopefully we'll be able to work on a $3 million opportunity with this investor next year and put a timeline in place. So that is the true advisory that AI is helping me augment my experience and information to be able to go make an intelligent decision instead of saying, hey, what do you think the best strategy is? Well, I think it would be this. No, I don't answer in adjectives. I answer in statistics. It's data driven. It's analytical, and here's the timeline. So that's just one use case or 2 use cases in the last 7 days that we've kind of utilized this technology for.
Nice, man. I love it. So research, basically research is the main the main way that you're implementing it in that scenario. And I mean, that's one of the I've done it for market research, for you mentioned comps, and specifically like when I'm going into a new market, perplexity I use a lot to help me
Love
figure out
perplexity.
if it's working. The ones I just wanted to reiterate the ones that you had said. You said GenSpark, and then Gamma. I found PopAI.pro. Is that the same thing?
No, it's not. It's called Gamma.app. And that one
Gamma.app.
is that one's very specific because idiots like me that are not design focused and not real tech savvy, it's easy enough for me to design. I have eliminated a full position in my company because of Gamma.app. It has saved me over $75,000 because I do not have to have offering memorandums created or anything else. The other one, from an underwriting standpoint, that I cannot speak highly enough is Intel CRE. Intel CRE. Anton, the CEO over there, has built an unbelievably incredible product. So I can now take a 150 unit multifamily property and put the rent roll, the financials in there. It automatically maps it. I can search for comps within there. I can build sensitivity analysis. It creates a website, an offering memorandum, a flip book, all within Intel CRE. And so, anyways, those are 3 that I use on a regular basis. GenSpark is a super agent. So it has different agents within it, one for research, one for Excel documents and data specifically. It can do so many things that I don't even utilize it for. But I like, and it will build slides for you too. So you can
What's
build your
it?
slides.
What's the LLM behind it? Is it Chat GPT?
So it uses 7 to 8. So
Oh,
it
interesting.
combine, and depending on your request, it goes and taps into the right large language model for you to use.
Huh, pretty cool.
Pretty cool
Yeah,
stuff.
that's definitely something I'll have to check out. I like that it can create presentations for you. I didn't even think that it would do that. That's a use case, but now that you say it, it's like obvious. I do it. Um, we were doing this test. We were gonna rank websites with AI, and we were successful. In fact, we ranked this one. Our first test was sellmymobilehometoday.com. I think that's what it
Mm,
was, and it ended up ranking nationally. And we're still getting leads for people just sending us mobile homes that they want to sell.
wow.
And we built this all. I think I built it with Replit or Lovable. I can't remember which one, but yeah, these tools out there, it is amazing. Once you get good, once you have the right tool and you understand its context and its use, the what you can do with it is just amazing. Um, so
Well,
the two
Gabe,
that you
one last thing that I'll say is, like with Gamma, if I create a presentation and I've done a broker opinion of value or market research, I can click a button and create a website. And so now it is a website and it's
yeah,
live on a website. So it's just, I mean, it's that used to take weeks. And so I think that from an artificial intelligence standpoint, like digital marketing firms are the ones that are probably getting the most impact right now, just from a AI standpoint, because you can build this stuff, you can get it
instantly.
launched instantly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool. So outside of research, do you do? I mean, one way that I like to use AI is contract review. Is that something you also do, or what are the other use cases that you've found AI fits
Oh
for real
gosh,
estate
man.
specifically?
Okay, I'll just go down my custom GPTs right now because I'm looking at them right here. So, LinkedIn content. Justin Welsh is a top LinkedIn guy, and he has some of the best written posts on there. So he has a custom GPT that I run my LinkedIn posts through. Sales Guru
That's
GPT.
amazing.
I train everybody on NEPQ, neuro emotional persuasive questioning. So Sales Guru GPT is trained on all of the principles there. So I chat with that on a regular basis. My third highest use one, real estate law advisor, right? Absolutely. So I have a custom GPT that is focused on real estate law. I've got another one, Chris Voss, right? So negotiation. That's all I do is negotiate. So I'm like, hey, run this through, never split the differences framework. How should I say this? What should I be thinking about? How do I create a win-win scenario here? So that's another one. I have underwriting ones that I utilize on a regular basis. I've created my own for my goal setting, process. And so now I can go to the Align goal setting guru and I can talk to it and say, okay, it's time for my new quarterly goals. And it's based on the 12-week year, right? Like, so I love that book. And so now I can just type in, here's what I'm trying to accomplish. I have a document now. Now I can go take that document out. So many different things. And that's through Chat GPT. So Chat GPT, the custom GPTs, and then also I use GenSpark and Gamma on a regular basis. And then Intel CRE has AI baked into the underwriting software. So if I'm going to get a property from, maybe I get a mobile home park from an owner and they don't have any of the financials, right? Intel CRE will use rules of thumb and bring in, rules of thumb for the expenses based off of the information in AI that I have. So now that's automatically in my underwriting, right? And so it's just, it just makes it so much more accessible. And then no longer do I have a 14-page spreadsheet. I have a website that somebody can go click on with a flip book that is just, professionally designed in my brand theme in less than, you know, two hours really. And this helped me win, my most recent listing, and it was a competitive bidding scenario. $2.8 million brand new multifamily property. Everybody's going to want this thing, right? We're having huge momentum on it. Well, I mean, she sends me the information. 35 minutes later, I have a full broker opinion of value. 35 minutes later. Won
Yeah,
the listing. The other brokers didn't even get a chance to get the response back to them. Signed listing agreement 24 hours. That's $100,000 commission.
yeah. That's awesome, man. And I feel that specifically creating AI is allowing you to create very customized marketing pieces, customized sales process, customized to the person that you're actually speaking with. I do this a lot. Like I'll if I'm speaking with somebody or I'm calling some kind of owner, and I can find information about them online, I'll put it into one of the LLMs that I like to use. Then I'll just ask it to summarize the person and what it can glean, and then I can go into that
Hmm.
conversation with information about that person, so they feel that I've done a little bit more background research. And so, yeah, man. I mean, we can go on and on about this, but we have, I just took a peek at the clock. It's 30 minutes. We're supposed to cut it at 20, so we've gone a little bit over, but it's all good. But I am gonna push us on to the quick question round. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah, of
All right.
course.
It starts with education or books. Could be any form, actually. It could be a movie you've seen, a conference you've gone to, mentorship program you've been a part of. But I need two recommendations: one for general life wisdom, and then one for real estate.
Okay, so my favorite non-real estate book is Relentless by Tim Grover.
Hmm.
And so, he was Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan's coach, amongst other people. But those are two people. I have a custom piece of art right here with Kobe Bryant on it. And I study Michael Jordan on a regular basis. The Mamba mentality is right here as well. But Tim Grover was kind of their physical and mental coach. So that's my favorite, non-real estate book. I think that it shaped how I work, how I train, how I move through adversity. All those different components. The other thing I would say is, I know this is kind of goofy, but I learn a lot through LinkedIn. I have curated really strong people in my feed that I respect, and I get people out that are just spamming and putting they're trying to raise capital for their deals. I get them out. And so now I have people like Justin Ryder and Sean Ward and yourself and other people in my feed that I'm learning from. What are they hearing? What are they seeing on a regular basis? And that makes me double click on certain things. But one of my favorite podcasts, I guess, that I listen to on a regular basis is Willie Walker's show. It's called
Willy Wonka's show.
yeah, it's Willie
Is that a
Walker.
play off Willy Wonka, or is
No,
that
no,
actually his
Walker,
name?
Walker. So
Oh, okay, okay.
the Walker webcast. So
Yeah.
he runs Walker and Dunlap, right? So one of
Oh,
the biggest
nice.
commercial real estate firms, and he has incredible guests on, and so I really like that because he's a great interviewer. He's running a big public company, and he's having people on. So those are two things that I really like.
Nice. I like that you mentioned LinkedIn because of all the social media platforms, that is definitely the one that I enjoy the most, just because I feel the content is useful. It's like people
Yes.
are actually giving good advice. They're telling you what they're seeing in real time. So I like that as kind of a recommendation there. Let's move it on. This is for your younger self. Let's go back to the Logan. I mean, you can choose any of the points in the past. Let's say back when you were working at Jimmy John's, go back to that version of yourself and give him one piece of advice moving forward.
Yeah, I just say be patient, man. I mean, you got to be quick, but you don't hurry. And that's John Wooden, right? Be quick, but don't hurry. I was always in a hurry, and I was comparing myself around, other people. So I think that if I could be patient, I could get around the right people sooner. I've always, and Jim Rohn says that you can't outperform your inner circle. And I think that is so important. So I guard that inner circle very closely now.
Nice. Be quick, but wait, repeat that phrase again.
Yeah, be quick, but don't hurry.
Be quick,
Right?
but don't hurry. That's a good
You
one.
need to
I
be
like that.
moving, and we need to be agile, but we don't want to get in a hurry to go chase something, right? We got to
Yeah,
be
'cause that's
quick,
when
but
you
we don't
start to start to lose focus if you're in a hurry and you're just skipping over things. So that is good
exactly.
advice. Next question is about finding deals. This is a good one for you because you are on the brokerage side. So, what is your favorite way to generate leads and find new deals?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's trying to build trust in the marketplace, right? I mean, I run a content and relationship strategy that positions us, hopefully, maybe not as the first call when owners are considering a move, but like they've at least know who we are and what we do, right? And this includes weekly market research. It includes all of the marketing that I do on LinkedIn. It's public speaking. It's media. It's direct outreach. Obviously, that's the main focus, right? Direct outreach, but we really focus on referrals in this business. And so, the one thing I'm always asking people is, do you know anyone who wants to buy, sell, or invest in commercial real estate in Kansas City? Like, and more specifically, when I'm meeting with somebody and they say, how can I support you? It's like, okay, yeah. Do you have three people that come to mind that may be interested in buying, selling, or investing in commercial real estate in Kansas City? And having the wherewithal to ask that question and not feel weird about it, I think has brought me more opportunities than anything else, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I can't remember what if it was a YouTube video or something that I saw, and the guy, he said, what was his best piece of advice, and he was like, or no, he won some kind of sales competition, and everybody was wondering how he did it, and he said, at the end of the call, I just said, hey, do you have anybody else that that would like this service? And it was just such a simple little add-on to the
Yes.
conversation, but it had a huge impact because he ended, that is the reason that he got so many additional sales. So yeah, I like that. That's kind of the thing that stood out in your mind. Moving us on, this is about lessons learned. Not every deal we get into goes the way we expect it. In fact, pretty much every time something goes wrong, and that's when we get to learn a lesson. So, what was a deal that went a little bit sideways for you, and then what was the lesson you pulled from it?
Yeah. So, you know, early in my career, when transitioning from doing the single family homes, and I had done a lot of brokerage on multifamily and retail shopping centers, I had the Midas touch. Everything I had touched turned to gold. So, why not go buy a building that was built in the 1800s and completely do a historic readaptive use project, right? Why not? So did that, and it was 12,000 square feet building. Completely needed to be renovated. And here's my main takeaway. And I lost $250,000 on this deal. And my main takeaway was that I had a self-fulfilling prophecy. I needed the construction bid to be a certain amount for the deal to work, and I went and found the GC that would say that they could do it for that. And I ignored the group that had done 15 of those projects in that corridor that said, "Hey, that budget's going to get busted out." Well, went with that other GC, and 3 months in, we hit tuck pointing on the brick. That was another $200,000. We had to shut down the boulevard. That cost me $77,000, and our budget was completely busted. So I think that I got out of my circle of competency. I didn't listen, and I went with the things that I wanted to hear instead of the actual expert advice that I should have taken.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's totally reasonable, especially when you've had some good successes in your recent past. You're looking back and you're like, you know what? I can't do wrong. Everything I touch turns to gold. It's so easy to step out of your lane, but that's when you get bit. Which is kind of like, I guess the advice there would just to be don't chase the shiny objects. Stick in
That's
your
right.
lane. Stick at what you're good at, and everything else will follow. But for that leads us into the next question. We went over lessons learned. There are also some highlights. Sometimes things just go right and they stick out in our mind as those deals that we really enjoyed. So, what is your highlight reel? Give us one deal that just kind of stands out in your mind as your favorite.
Yeah, I mean, there's a project in Des Moines, Iowa that we purchased, and we had an institutional capital partner come in and invest with us on this deal. So we were really focused on it, right? And when we put the debt on the project, this is a 120 unit multifamily property, and when we put the debt on it, we decided to fix the debt for 10 years. And the institutional capital partner said, "Hey, we can get a better rate if we don't do that, and we take the floating rate." Well, this was prior to everybody having adjustable rate mortgages and really getting beat up, right? Well, during that period of time when everybody else is getting beat up with those adjustable rate mortgages going up, we were able to sell this property for a 4.2% cap rate in a market that had a 6.7% cap rate to a Delaware statutory trust fund company that needed to place capital by the end of the year. And the reason behind it, it was a assumable loan that had 8 years left at 3.47% financing.
Wow,
And so I
3.4%.
that's
That's
correct.
insane.
And so that was a huge win because the deal stayed 95% occupied during our ownership. We weren't able to really push rents that much other than organic rent growth. We couldn't really go in and do any renovations, turned around and sold it to a company that basically paid us to do that. And, that was a huge win for us. So that was one that definitely stands out.
Nice, man. I like it. A lesson there is don't go with variable rates. Get the ones as long as you can get them because you do not want to, go into an economy like ours where rates go up and down and you just have no idea where they're going to go next. So, good one. Let's go back to the last question. This is for the listeners. You've given us a lot to think about. I'm sure people want to reach out, get in contact with you. This is a two-parter. Where can they find you? And then what can they expect when they reach out?
Yeah. Well, number one, I mean, I'm active on LinkedIn on a regular basis. So Logan Freeman, Mr. Kansas City, just do the search there. You'll see me posting there daily, and I engage with everybody who sends me messages on there. If you do reach out to me, I mean, be specific. I get 15 to 25 people, sending me a DM, wanting to pick my brain. Go listen to this episode, right? Go listen to some other episodes. Read some of the newsletters. Point back to something that was unique and you have a specific question that I can actually respond to. I don't take just 30-minute calls with no one just to network. I don't do virtual coffees. I'm working. I'm doing deals, right? And so we've got $78 million worth of deals in our pipeline that we're actively working on. So, I think that if you have an interest in connecting, be specific when you do reach out and try to do your homework, like Gabe talked about earlier.
Right on. All right. So I will put Logan's link in the show notes. So if you guys want to reach out, all you got to do is click the little more in the description. It's going to pull down that full description, and in there you can find his link. And that wraps it up. Thanks, Logan, for hopping on the show.
Thanks for having me, Gabe.
Absolutely. For everybody who's with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions, reach out to me, Gabe at therealestateinvestingclub.com. If you want to support the show, just leave us a review or a comment or any of that stuff. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on